Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hopefully, you guys are having a great Thursday. Got lots of NHL news to discuss, so make sure that you stay tuned in to this episode to the end. And speaking of Thursday, just a couple of announcements. So, in case you guys are wondering, why have I been going AWOL on you guys? And for those who don't know what AWOL stands for, it stands for absent without leave. Why have I been going AWOL? Why have I not put out an episode over the week of the Hockey Talk TG podcast? What's taking so long? You guys have a lot of questions, I'm sure, and I'll answer all of those before we go ahead and get started to the NHL news. So just a couple of announcements. There was no episode on Monday, January the 19th, which January 19th was Martin Luther King Day. And to those who have listened to my podcast for a long time, know that I don't do an episode of the Hockey Talk TG podcast on holidays. So Martin Luther King Day, on Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, any or 4th of July. Like on holidays, I don't put out an episode of the Hockey Talk TG podcast. So that's why there's no episode for Monday. No episode on Wednesday is because of my school schedule. That was the next part I was going to get into. Because of my school schedule and because of, everything going on, I can't do my episode on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays anymore. So I moved it over to Tuesdays and Thursdays. The time for that is still to be determined. I will let you guys know on Tuesday's episode of the Hockey Talk 2G podcast when the Hockey Talk 2G podcast will come out. So I'll let you guys know about that there. But yeah, so because of my school schedule, everything else going on, I can't do an episode on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So the Hockey Talk TG podcast will now come out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I'll say it again at the end of this episode, just another reminder to let you guys know that we're not doing the Hockey Talk TG podcast on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays now. We're doing it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I'll let you guys know about the time, what time will come out on Tuesday's episode of the Hockey Talk TG podcast. But also make sure to like, subscribe to the Hockey Talk TG podcast YouTube channel, and make sure to follow the Hockey Talk TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk TG podcast and the latest hockey news going around the league. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started to the NHL news for today. Red Wings, Maple Leafs, original six matchup. Dylan Larkin scored the overtime game-winning goal in the Red Wings 2-1 overtime win over the Toronto Maple Leafs on Wednesday. Scored 3 minutes and 8 seconds into overtime. 12th career overtime goal for Dylan Larkin. In Detroit improves to 31, 16, and 4 of the season. They're 7-1 and 0 in their past 8 games, and they sweep the season series meets against the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is the first time that they have done that in 20 years. So it's been over 2 decades or so that the Red Wings have swept the Toronto Maple Leafs. They last did it in 1996, which was the year that they won the Well, actually, no, it was actually Colorado that won the Stanley Cup that year. Um, but yeah, that's when the Red Wings last swept the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1996. Can you believe that? First time in 20 years that they have done that. Dylan Larkin also had an assist for a 2-point night. He had the game tying goal for Detroit back in the first period with 18 seconds remaining. And John Gibson, he made 30 saves on 31 shots facing that in this game. 7 straight win for John Gibson overall, and he's 16-2-0 in his past 18 games. Patrick Kane, Showtime, my favorite hockey player growing up. One of the reasons why I became a Chicago Blackhawks fan, unfortunately, he did not have a point in this game. He remains 2 points away from the time Mike Modano for most points by a United States born player in NHL history. Mike Modano has 1,374 points, and Patrick Kane remains 2 points away with 1,372. of tying Mike Modano for most points by a United States-born player in NHL history. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, Scott Lawton, he had the long goal for Toronto, seventh goal of the season for him. Scored 4 minutes and 46 seconds into the first period. He had the opening goal of the game. And Joseph Wall, he made 39 saves on 41 shots faced in net. Oliver Ekman Larson, he got injured this game, so he's out with a um, lower body he's out with a lower body injury in this one, so unfortunately was not able to continue on throughout the game. And for the Maple Leafs, doesn't get any worse than that. They lost two straight games. They won 2-2 in their last 5 games, and they dropped to 24, 17, and 9 of the season. The Maple Leafs continue their 5 game homestand against the VGK Vegas Golden Knights on Friday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That is also the return of Mitch Marner to Toronto, the team that he's played with for 9 seasons, the team that he grew up cheering for. And he gave everything he had on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like I said, he played for the Toronto Maple Leafs for 9 seasons. He was drafted by the Leafs first overall, fourth round pick in the 2015 NHL draft. He played for the London Knights in the OHL in his draft year. And with the Toronto Maple Leafs, Mitch Marner has 741 points in 657 games played, 221 goals, 520 assists for 741 points in 657 games played for Mitch Marner. And in the playoffs, he has 63 points in 70 games played, 13 goals, 50 assists for 63 points in 70 playoff games played for Mitch Marner. The Golden Knights already played the Maple Leafs back in Las Vegas, the city Lost Souls or whatever the nickname is for Las Vegas. But they played them back in Vegas on Thursday, January the 15th, which was a 6-5 overtime win for the VGK Vegas Golden Knights in the Sin City. Mitch Marner, he had 2 assists in that game. He also had 3 shots on goal and 22 minutes and 23 seconds of time on ice and 24 shifts against his former team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. I wanted to see him score in that game against his former team. But unfortunately, he did not. He got 2 assists though. He got 2 points in the game, which was those 2 assists, but he did not score against his former team. Hopefully, we see him score in his return to Toronto. So last game was him playing his old team for the first time. For Friday's game, we're going to see him return to Toronto, the city he grew up in, and against the team he grew up cheering for and playing for. We'll see how that game turns out. Like I said, as a 6 o'clock p.m. puck drop on Friday for the Red Wings. They continue their 3 game road trip in the state of hockey, St. Paul, Minnesota, on Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. That game will air on ESPN for you guys to watch. But moving on, um, with some more NHL news. Seth Jones, he will be out for the 2026 Olympics for Team USA due to a upper body injury. He has 24 points in 40 games for the Florida Panthers this season, 6 goals, 18 assists for 24 points in 40 games for the Panthers this season. He sustained an upper body injury at the 2026 NHL Winter Classic at Lone Depot Park in Miami on January the 2nd, which I was at that game, by the way. He was struck near the left collarbone by a shot from Rangers forward Alexi Lafreniere that deflected up off the stick of Panthers defenseman. Um, Panthers defenseman, I'm forgetting the name, at 7 minutes and 54 seconds of the first period. And this hurts even more was because this was going to be Seth Jones' first Olympic appearance. He has not had a Olympic appearance in his career until what would have supposedly been right now. But he got injured in the Winter Classic. Like I said, I was at that Winter Classic game in Miami. I'm still surprised to see how the NHL had pulled it off because snow in Florida, that doesn't make any sense. But anyway, his absence removes one of the most experienced NHL defensemen from the U.S. blue line. He was projected to play a major role as a top pairing or shut down defenseman, but unfortunately, that is not going to be the case. And he was replaced by Anaheim Ducks defenseman Jackson Lacombe, in which he had 31 points in 49 games played for the Ducks this season. And he didn't play for Team USA in the Four Nations face-off last season. Hopefully, Team USA wins in the Olympics after that Four Nations face-off loss. But he didn't play for Team USA in the Four Nations face-off last season. However, he did win gold medal with Team USA in the 2025 IIHF World Championship game. And Jackson Lacombe, his game, he represents a younger, mobile alternative for Seth Jones' game on the blue line. He has strong skating skills, great offensive instincts, and transition play. And his game aligns very well with the ice and faster pace of international play. So he could be a great replacement. He should be able to do well with Team USA for the Olympics. We'll just have to see how everything will go. Overall thoughts on this one: it hurts to see Seth Jones not playing for Team USA in the Olympics, especially since he's a veteran defenseman. He has the experience, he has the skill. Um, but I'm very excited to see Jackson Lacombe play for Team USA. I think this is a great replacement. We'll see what he brings to the table, and we'll see how everything goes for Team USA, and hopefully that they can win the Olympics after, like I said, their Four Nations face-off loss from last season. We're moving on to some other NHL news. So Josh Doan, he signs a 7-year contract deal with the Buffalo Sabres on Wednesday. For those that don't know, he is the son of former NHL player and Arizona Coyotes legend Shane Doan. Um, but anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know about that in case you didn't recognize that last name or not familiar with Josh Doan. He is the son of former NHL player and Arizona Coyotes legend Shane Doan. Josh Doan would have been a RFA after this season, so the Buffalo Sabres were able to lock him up before that. And it is a $48.65 million contract deal with an AAV of $6.95 million, which that contract deal will be set to begin in the 2026-27 NHL season. And Josh Doan, he has set career highs in goals with 15, assists with 20, and points with 35 in 49 games played this season for him. And this is his first season with the Buffalo Sabres, by the way. He was um, traded from the Utah. He was traded to the Buffalo Sabres by the Utah Mammoth, along with defenseman Michael Kessling in exchange for J.J. Paterka back on June 26th of 2025. And since then, Josh Stone has transformed into a cornerstone forward for the Sabres, another young player for the young, talented, and already good team in the Buffalo Sabres. But overall thoughts on this one? Again, great signing for the Sabres. You want to be able to lock up your young talent for like 6, 7 years, 6, 7. So I think this is a great sign from the Buffalo Sabres, and I think Sabres fans are already starting to like Josh Stone, probably even better than JJ Paterka. But we'll just have to see how everything goes from there. And if the Sabres can make it to the playoffs despite their great start this season. But I'll tell you guys where the Sabres are sitting at in the standings. So the Sabres have a 27, 17, and 5 record with 59 points. They're in a wild card spot, first place in the wild card spot. They're 1 point over the Boston Bruins in the wild card spot. And the Bruins, of course, are 28, 20, and 2 of the season with 58 points. Division wise, Buffalo is fourth in the Atlantic Division. League wise, they're sitting ninth in the league. So they're already doing very good. Can they keep up this good start to the end of the season? We'll just have to see how everything go. But I always thought Buffalo had such a great, talented team with Josh Stone, Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin, Bo Byram, Zach Benson, Peyton Krebs, Ukko Pekka. So the talent is there, but they can't seem to get over the hump of making the playoffs. They had their last playoff appearance, I believe, in I want to say either 2010 or 2011. I could be wrong, but it's been a while since Buffalo has made the playoffs. And even though they're on this good start right now, I still don't see them making the playoffs. The same thing happened in 2018 when they had like guys like Jack Eichel and Ryan O'Reilly on the team then, and Van de Kane. And I think Omark was their goalie at the time, and they had a good start somewhere in 2018. They still missed out on the Stanley Cup playoffs. So they have to show me, they have to continue to start. They can't let their foot off the gas, but they have to show me that they can continue to have this great start to the end of the season in order for me to see, like, oh, this team is for real. They're going to be a playoff team. Because right now, like, even though that they're on this impressive start, I still don't see them as a playoff team. 'Cause like I said, same thing happened in 2018. They didn't make the playoffs. But Sabres fans, let me know you guys' thoughts on that. Do you guys think that you guys will be a playoff team this year with the young talent or so? Because, like I said, the same thing's been said for the past few years. And I'm not trying to diss you guys, but um, still haven't made the playoffs. So I don't know how it's going to go for Buffalo. But I just want to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Um, do you think the Sabres will still be a playoff team after this year, despite their like great start or so? And it's going to be tough in the Eastern Conference overall because you got teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs who are sitting with 57 points, Flyers with 55 points, Devils with 54 points. So you got teams creeping in outside the wild card spot to get into a playoff spot. So the Eastern Conference right now is very tight. It is very tight in the Eastern Conference. So it's going to be a tough hill to climb for Buffalo and to keep their impressive start bowling. It's going to be tough in the Eastern Conference. It's going to be stacked. Well, not stacked. I can't think of the word for it. It's going to be tight in the Eastern Conference because teams are going to be just eyeing in for that wild card spot to get into the playoffs. We'll just have to see how everything goes for the rest of the season. We're moving on to some other NHL news now. Flyers, Mammoth, Clayton Keller, he scores the overtime game winning goal. He actually had a two-goal game in this one, and the Mammoths 5-4 overtime win over the Flyers on Wednesday. His second goal ended up being the overtime game winner, in which he scored 2 minutes and 1 second into overtime after tying the game in regulation with 35 seconds remaining in the third period. And fun fact, Clayton Keller's game-tying goal was the first 6-on-5 goal in Mammoth franchise history. The latest game time goal in franchise history, by the way, besting the previous mark set by Josh Doan, who I just got through talking about, the 7-year contract deal from the Buffalo Sabres. But yeah, latest game time goal in franchise history, besting the previous mark set by Josh Doan, who scored a game time goal with 1 minute and 54 seconds remaining in the third period in the Mammoths 5-4 overtime win over the Islanders last year in their inaugural season. They were called Utah Hockey Club then, which I hated that name, so I'm glad they changed it. They were called Utah Hockey Club then, not the Utah Mammoth, and Josh Doan had the latest game tying goal then, but Clay Keller tops it with scoring with 35 seconds remaining in the third period. He also had an assist for a 3-point night in the game. He assisted on Larson Krause's goal in the second period. And with that 3-point night, he now has 13 points in his past 7 games. 2 goals, 11 assists for 13 points in his past 7 games. And Utah improves to 26-20-4 of the season. They extend their point streak to 8 games, in which they are 7-0-1 during the span. And the Mammoth finished a 7-game homestand with a 6-0-1 record. And fun fact, Utah became the first team with points in each game during a homestand of at least 7 contests since the LA Kings did it back on March 11th through 26th of 2023. In the Mammoth, they're in a wild card spot with 56 points of the season. First place wild card spot for them. The 9 points from potentially, I say potentially because I don't think they're going to pass Minnesota. At least that's my opinion. Passing the Wild for third place in the Central Division, in which Minnesota is 28-14-9 of the season with 65 points. JJ Paterka and Barrett Hayton had the other goals for the Mammoth. Nick Schmaltz and Dylan Gunther each had 2 assists in the game, while Karel Vamelka made 25 saves and 29 shots faced the net. And for the Philadelphia Flyers, Christian Dvorak scored twice for them. He also had an assist for a 3-point night. Cam York and Bobby Brink scored for the Flyers. Trevor Zegras and Jamie Drysdale, two former Anaheim Ducks, each had 2 assists in the loss. Trevor Zegras, he now has 5 points in his last 5 games, 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points in his last 5 games for Trevor Zegras. Travis Konecny, he had an assist to extend his point streak to 3 games, in which he has 5 points during the span. 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points during a 3 game point streak for Travis Konecny. Samuel Harrison made 22 saves on 27 shots faced in the net. And the Flyers, they lost 7 of their last 8 games, 1-5-2 during the span, and they dropped to 23, 17, and 9 of the season. They have 55 points and are 3 points out of a playoff spot. I'm still predicting that Philly will make the playoffs this season. Hopefully, they don't let me down. They were on a wagon somewhere throughout the season. They were doing really good in the middle or like somewhere throughout the season, and then all of a sudden they go on a losing slump and they do terribly. But hopefully they can win some more hockey games and still maintain themselves within that wild card spot. Like I said, it's going to be tight in the Eastern Conference, so points are going to be hard to get in the league. But I predicted Philly will make the playoffs this year, so hopefully that prediction comes true. The Flyers wrap up a 3 game road trip in the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, against the Avalanche on Friday at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Mammoths start a 4 game road trip in the Music City against the Nashville Predators Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Central Time. That should have been the 2027 NHL Winter Classic matchup, by the way. Predators and Mammoth, the Ice Age rivalry, Mammoth versus Saber-Tooth Tigers, but the NHL decided to do Avalanche and Mammoth for the 2027 NHL Winter Classic. But that's still a great matchup too. Still Central Division showdown matchup right there. But I think it would have been way better with Predators versus Mammoth. But anyway, speaking of the Avalanche, they were playing the Anaheim Ducks on Wednesday, and the Anaheim Ducks hold off the Colorado Avalanche with a 2-1 shootout win on Wednesday. Mikhail Granlund had the shootout game when he go, and Anaheim improves to 26, 21, and 3 of the season. They are back in third place of the Pacific Division. They won 5 in a row. They lost 9 straight prior to this winning streak. And they won 5 in a row, so they're right back in the top 3 of the Pacific Division. And Jeffrey Val, he had the other goal for Anaheim, scored 1 minute and 27 seconds in the second period. Lucas Dostal made 40 saves on 41 shots faced the net. Mason McTavish, he was a late scratch in this one. He got injured in practice. He's out with an upper body injury after his warm-ups in practice, so he did not play in this one. Alex Killorn played in his 1,000 career NHL game with the Ducks on Wednesday. 553 points in 1,000 career games, 240 goals, 313 assists for 553 points in 1,000 career games with the Ducks on and Lightning, Ducks and Lightning in his NHL career. 2 time Stanley Cup champion with the Lightning, by the way, won the Stanley Cup in 2020 and 2021. He played 11 seasons with Tampa before coming over to the Ducks at the start of the 2023-24 NHL season. Arturi Lukkinen, he had the long goal for Colorado in this one. Brent Burns had an assist on his goal for his 25th point of the season and to pass Daniel Char for the NHL's third most points in the season among defensemen at age 40 or older at the start of the season. The only defenseman with more than that is Nicholas Lidstrom, in which he has 62 points in the 2010-11 season and the 2011-2012 season. Scott Wedgmore made 16 saves on 17 shots, faced the net, and Colorado has now lost 3 of the last 4 games, 3-3-2 in the past 8 games, and they dropped to 34-5-9 season. Still first place in the league, though, so not too bad. They wrapped up a 7 game homestand against the Philadelphia Flyers on Friday at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Ducks continue their 5 game road trip in Seattle against the Kraken on Friday at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Speaking of the Kraken, they were in action on Wednesday. They played the New York Islanders and Matthew Schaefer. They scored four unanswered goals in their 4-1 win over the Islanders on Wednesday. They snapped their four-game losing skid, and Seattle improves to 22-18-9 this season. They passed San Jose for second place of the wild card spot in the Western Conference by virtue of the regulation win. Seattle's 22-18-9 with 53 points. San Jose's 25-21-3 with 53 points. Nice comeback win for the Kraken this season overall, though. This is also the first time that Seattle head coach Lane Lambert has defeated his former team since he was fired by the Islanders and replaced by Hockey Hall of Famer and Stanley Cup champion Patrick Roy on January 20th of 2024. Vince Dunn, he had a golden assist for 2.9 this one. He became the first defenseman in franchise history with 50 career goals. Jared McCann also had a golden assist for a 2-point night for the Kraken. Matty Beniers and Capo Caco had the other goals for Seattle. Philip Grubauer, he made 24 saves on 25 shots faced the net in this one. And for the Islanders, Anthony Duclair scored the lone goal for New York. 12th goal of the season for him coming on the power play. His eighth goal in his past 8 games. So he's been on a heater right now for the Islanders. Ilya Sorokin made 21 saves and 25 shots faced the net, and the Islanders complete their 7-game road trip. They were 3-3-1 during the span, and they're now 27-18-5 of the season. They head home to face the Buffalo Sabres on Saturday at 12 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Kraken continue their 6-game homestand against the Ducks on Friday at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Other games from the Wednesday slate, the Penguins win 4-1 against the Calgary Flames. They're now 3-0-2 in their past 5 games. They're second place in the Metropolitan Division. The Canucks hold off the Capitals with a 4-3 win at home on Wednesday. They end their 11-game losing skid. Meanwhile, the Capitals have lost their fourth straight in a row. Try not to end up like the Vancouver Canucks. So hopefully they can win their next game. NHL games on the slate for this Thursday. There's 8 games on the slate for this Thursday, starting with the VGK Vegas Golden Knights traveling to Beantown, taking on the Boston Bruins at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Golden Knights are playing a back-to-back set. They'll be in Toronto on Friday to play the Maple Leafs, in which that'll be Mitch Marner's return to Toronto. And then we got the Buffalo Sabres taking on the Montreal Canadiens for a Atlantic Division showdown at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got the Chicago Blackhawks taking on the Carolina Hurricanes at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. This will air on Hulu and ESPN Plus for you guys to watch. Also, Frank Nazar's return to the lineup. He missed this is his first game back since December 20th, where he took a puck to the face in the Blackhawks game against the Ottawa Senators. So happy to see. So as a Blackhawks fan, happy to see Frank Nazar back in the lineup. The dynamic duo of Connor Bedard and Frank Nazar is back. Can't wait for that. And Chicago's also playing a back-to-back set. They'll be at home on Friday to take on the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that game will also air on ESPN and ESPN Plus for you to watch. So that'll be a great game right there. Hopefully so for the Blackhawks because they have had trouble defeating the Tampa Bay Lightning recently. Well, I mean they won a couple of games against Tampa, but most of the time it's been Tampa dominating against us. But we won against them in the 2015 Stanley Cup Final, by the way, which we can go back to those times. But most of the time Tampa has had our number. But we won a couple of games or so against them since the 2015 Stanley Cup Final. And then we got the Dallas Stars taking on the CBJ Columbus Blue Jackets at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got the Ottawa Senators traveling to Music City, take on the Nashville Predators at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. I'm not sure if this game will get canceled or not because the weather in Tennessee is supposed to be a winter snowstorm or so. So maybe they keep that game. Maybe the Predators play tonight. Maybe they won't. We'll just have to see how everything will go. And then we got the Florida Panthers taking on the Winnipeg Jets at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got the Pittsburgh Penguins taking on the Edmonton Oilers at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Sidney Crosby versus Connor McDavid. Always fun to watch. Two first overall picks. Two of the best Canadian NHL players who are going to be playing in the NHL Olympics in Milan. It's always fun to watch Sid go up against McDavid. Sidney Crosby versus Connor McDavid. Then we got Detroit Red Wings taking on the Minnesota Wild at 8:30 p.m. Central Time to wrap up the night. Red Wings playing a back-to-back set. They were in Toronto on Wednesday, take on the Maple Leafs, in which they won 2-1 in overtime. Patrick Kane still within 2 points from time. Mike McDonald for most points by USA. Foreign player. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he gets it done tonight and he breaks the record. Fingers crossed. He gets it done tonight against Kirill Kaprizov and the Minnesota Wild. Which let's see how things go in that game. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Just a reminder, we are now doing the Hockey Talk TG podcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays instead of Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The time of that is to be determined. I'll let you guys know on Tuesday's episode of the Hockey Talk Tuesday podcast of when the Hockey Talk Tuesday podcast will come out every Tuesday and Thursday. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe on the podcast YouTube channel. Make sure to follow the Hockey Talk Tuesday podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. We're going to be with you guys now every Tuesday and Thursday instead of Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And like I said, I'll let you guys know when the time for the Hockey Talk Tuesday podcast will come out on every Tuesday and Thursday. Both of you guys have a great rest of your day. Keep God first as always. Be blessed. I'll see you guys on Tuesday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Take care.